Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Houseknecht. I'm the park manager here at Fakahatchee Strand Preserve State Park. And first off, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. I know it's a long way for some of you, and we're not on the way to anywhere. So I appreciate everybody coming out and enjoying this beautiful day, this beautiful weather, and celebrating this tremendous milestone in Fakahatchee's history. This is, as we're calling it here in the park, a game changer. So we're really excited for this project to get underway and, most importantly, be completed because this is going to be a premier stop on Tamiami Trail and in the Everglades in general. So we're really excited for the opportunity to provide a window into this beautiful place that we live and work in and share that with everybody that we can. I'd like to take a quick second to introduce my team. Mike Owen, our park biologist, if you'll stand and say hello. Park Services Specialist Mike Dewey. And Park Services Specialist Stephen Bass, but I think he's aiding with the parking still, so he's out in the back. And Park Ranger Guy DiGiovanni. Please stand up. And that's my team, and they're a tremendous group, and without them, we wouldn't accomplish half of what we do. They're a great staff, and they're willing to step up for any task put forth to them. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all of our volunteers, our resident volunteers, and our Friends of Fakahatchee volunteers. The Friends of Fakahatchee have championed this project from day one and have kept things moving, and we're finally going to see our dream come to reality, so we're extremely excited. And I'd like to introduce Glenn Stasel as our incoming president of the Friends of Fakahatchee. No hiding behind the tree. And Tom Maish for all the work that you've done on this project. Wouldn't be here without you, Tom, so we greatly appreciate it. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our current Friends of Fakahatchee president, Patrick Higgins, and he's going to come up and introduce everybody today. And I want to take a moment to thank him for everything that he's done. Tremendous accomplishments in the last several years as the president, and thank you so much for your time and effort. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the ceremony.
Thank you, Steve. By the way, that's probably the only time and the last time you'll ever see Steve wearing a hat like that, is she? Because our rangers are really field guys, is she? So let me just add to Steve's welcome to welcome you all on this very exciting day on this beautiful Fakahatchee morning. This is, as Steve said, a momentous occasion for the Friends, for the park, and also for the county and for the local community here, because apart from introducing this wonderful resource to a much larger portion of the public, it's going to have a significant economic impact on the area because visitation is going to increase tremendously. And right where you were standing here now with these shovels lined up here, then you've got to imagine the beautiful bridge which is going to go across here, the award-winning bridge designed by David Corbin, leading across on that prairie, about 100 yards in there, a beautiful modern interpretive pavilion, the first one in the park, which has a kind of wraparound veranda and a roof line which kind of reflects the Cracker vernacular, and then a revolutionary boardwalk design with a metal mesh, very low impact on the environment, going across the marsh and across the wet prairie through a few scraggly hammocks to what we're calling Green Heron Lake, a lake which has largely been hidden from the public behind there, a lovely crushed shell path around a crushed limestone rock, joining up to the old site. It's going to be a truly tremendous facility. And then, of course, in phase 2, which we still need to raise the money for, we're going to be adding a canopy walk, which will be a spectacular feature, quite unique, nothing like it in Florida at all, and will be completely ADA accessible, and that will in fact join up with the original boardwalk higher up to make an amazing loop walk, which will be about the same distance as the walk at Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. So it's going to be pretty exciting. And of course, we all know, because we do it ourselves, we like to drive along the Tamiami Trail, and to have a place where you can safely park, where you can observe the wildlife, and that's part of the idea of this bridge design, and to have restrooms, because some of you may have been in the porta potties because you've had a cup of coffee on the way here, and you know they don't normally look like those. I was the first one in, actually. I was very smart, actually. So, as Steve said, there's been a long time in the making, about a decade, actually, and I'm so pleased to see so many people in the audience today who've been involved and made contributions to that, and I'd like to pay a particular welcome to some of those people, including State Senator Kathleen Pasadomo here in the front row. And she was the person who sponsored the legislation through to get the second half of funding we needed to do phase one, and we're most appreciative, and assisted by Diona Fiella, our county commissioner here in the front, who's been a long-term friend of the Friends of Fakahatchee. And then we're pleased to welcome Eric Draper, the director of the Florida State Parks here. It's his first time in his new position. And of course, this signals something which has been happening for over a year now, but a complete about-face and change in, if you like, the attitude and the support which the parks are receiving from the state. And they've gone back to the original park mission, and it really means a huge amount. And in fact, why we've got so many people from the Park Service here from higher up in Tallahassee, on behalf of the park, I'd just like to express the incredible support that we got after Hurricane Irma. We were in better condition than many of the neighborhoods in downtown Naples. I think about $750,000 was given in the park to bring in outside contractors to get ourselves back on our feet, because we have 120 square miles here, and as you notice that when Steve called out the names, there were only, including himself, 5 rangers to manage that, so that was pretty impressive. We've also welcoming today Chuck Hasher, who's the Assistant Director of the Florida Parks, and he's the sort of field guy, and he's been a good friend and supporter of the parks as well. And also from our district headquarters, Linda Subik from District 4 Bureau Chief, and also BJ Givens, again, who've been very supportive of me and the Friends in the past years. And what I quickly learned when I joined the board 6 years ago was that, in fact, they're on our side. And every time we've gone up and we've asked them about something and looked for their support, we've received that. So that's very much appreciated. We also have a few people here today, which is encouraging, because it probably will happen then, from the construction side. So we have David Matson here today, I think, from the pre-construction section leader, the person who's got us to this point here, from the Bureau of Design and Construction. I think we have Terry Caron, who's actually the project manager in the Bureau of Design and Construction here today. We've got Laura Ross, who's the state's architect. And then we've got Tom Lindley from the Friends of Florida State Parks Foundation, which is the sort of umbrella organization which is supporting all of the Friends group. And then a very special person here. I see him, he's sporting a beard today because he's very shy and didn't want to be recognized, but we've got David Corbin, who is of Corbin and Associates, the architect, local architect, who has done many very environmentally sensitive award-winning projects, and he won an award for his bridge design and for the design of the pavilion. And although we contracted with him originally and got him rolling on this project, and then the state took over and contracted with him again, he has actually done so much more than we contracted for, and has made a huge donation in terms of in-kind work on behalf of the Friends, including creating the new trail maps, which are on our website for the first time. And then we've got another important person here. She's very, very small, so I'm going to make her stand up. We've got Chris Whipple. Here she is. I love to humiliate her. And I think I took her on her first swamp walk in the park, and I said, don't worry, I won't take you above my waist. Well, of course, One of the things the Friends did to help seed this project and get it going is we commissioned a professional firm, the Acorn Group, based out in California, which Chris is the local representative, to develop the interpretive plan, which has been so significant. I know I drove her crazy when we were doing it, because I insisted every single little detail, like alligator slides, was included, but that has resulted in that is part of the plan and is being implemented, so it was worth it. And then we've got Jonelle Modis from the Collier Tourism Bureau, and they also have been very supportive, and they've recently given us a grant of $47,000 to build information kiosks throughout the park, which will have park maps on them and help ensure that there's safe access for the greater part of the public. And also back there, there's Chad Washburn. And is Donna with you today? No. Okay, we've got Chad Washburn, who's the Deputy Director of the Naples Botanical Gardens. And we've had a long partnership with the Botanical Gardens. They're one of our partners on Mike Owen's project for the giant air plant restoration, and also helping work and research in combating the laurel wilt, the red bay ambrosia beetle, and so forth. So really tremendous partners and supporters. I've probably forgotten a few people, but I apologize for that. But anyways, we're very pleased to see you all here. And also I'd like to pay a special tribute to Tom Maish, standing on the side there, who's being quite modest now, but he's one of the people who has championed this for 10 years and helped bring this to this particular stage. So thank you, Tom. So as today is also the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, I'd like to invite John Kaiser, one of my fellow board members, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we'll carry on with the program. You can go on the stage.
Thank you. Let's just have a brief moment of silence for Pearl Harbor Day. Thank you. The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, by the way, just before I hand it over, some of you, I don't see many of you pick these up, but we have these very nice, they're the original 1986 Florida Department of Interior Guide to the Boardwalk, which we've reprinted for this occasion. So do pick up a souvenir copy, they're kind of special. Okay. Tom Maish.
Thank you, Patrick. As Patrick said, it's actually been 13 years when the Friends started this as our citizen support organization goal. And it's really been a long haul, but it's worth it. So we have some really special friends that help push us over the top on this. Commissioner Donna Fiala has been a long-term supporter of the Friends, attending many of our events. When the Friends were allowed to ask for a specific budget request for funding, we turned to Donna, who introduced us to Senator Pastadoma and Representative Bob Rama. Unfortunately, Bob couldn't make it today, but his aide, Priscilla Grandis, is here. Donna not only set up meetings for us, but attended to help our presentation. The Friends truly appreciate what you've done for us, Commissioner Donna Fiala.
Thank you so much, Tom. Well, what a joy it's been working with them. I had met Tom many times, and when he came up with this idea, he and Ted DeGroot came, Patrick came, we all were meeting about this, how important this was to our community. And of course, I'm chairman of the TDC, the Tourist Development Council as well. And I knew that tourism was now focusing more on the environment than ever before. So it was kind of fun to start tying these things together. And of course, Kathleen and I have been friends for a lot of years. And I knew I could get in her door. And then, of course, Bob Rommel and his assistant, and that's Pat, I'm sorry, that's Donna, come on, Priscilla Granis. I know her so well because we work together all the time. Anyway, she also has that door waiting for me to get in to talk with Bob Rommel, and all of us together, but I wasn't the salesperson, I just opened the door. It was these guys that told everybody what it was really all about. And the enthusiasm that they felt, I'm telling you, it was beautiful. How could anybody resist them? So between the fellows that I just mentioned, Ted DeGroot, and where did he just go? Where did you just go, Tom? Oh, behind the flag, I'm sorry. And Tom Mason, Patrick, they came in and really sold it. Francine, you are there all the time with us too as well. We loved it. And then the TDC took over and they thought this will be something great for our community and for the tourism industry. So it was a group effort. I just happened to be there to participate in it. So I thank all of you for calling on me to help you. And we're all going to enjoy this in our community forever. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Donna mentioned the Tourist Development Bureau, and one of the early people on board who slipped in on us is Jack Wirt, who was the head of it. And Jack signed a letter of support, I think, in 2008, so that we could start making this known to the public. When Donna was talking about coming to our meetings, one thing was rather funny. Representative Bob Rommel was new, and his agenda was opiate control and several other things. And Donna came in the meeting and she said, "Bob, you got to help these people. This is a good project." Well, he was sandbagged, but he agreed to come on board with us. Well, next is Senator Kathleen Pasadoma, who is a consensus builder, who has sponsored legislation in education, human trafficking, and is chair of the Ethics Committee. Although Kathleen had little knowledge in environmental issues, she not only sponsored our request, but then she asked to set up a panel of experts in the environment so that she could learn what is needed for Southwest Florida's environmental issues. Kathleen championed our specific budget requests through the Senate and guided Bob Rommel in the House, and I had the pleasure listening to the broadcast where she actually appealed to the Senate for our project. Her personal involvement has made this possible for the facilities that will be so sorely needed in the Fakahatchee. Kathleen, please.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. What a day. As I mentioned to several of you earlier, when Tom originally discussed having this groundbreaking, you were saying July, August, and I said, "Are you crazy?" So it is a beautiful day for a beautiful, beautiful program. I got to tell you that I do a lot of things, different things in my role as a legislator. But the most heartwarming, the thing that got me the most was when Tom, and you came in, Patrick, came into my office to talk about this project. And I was aware of it because every once in a while I drive to Miami on 41 like everyone else. And, as I drive past here and I see people trying to cross the road from that parking lot, I used to think to myself, somebody's going to get killed. And I didn't really put two and two together. And then they sat down and they showed me the plan. I was blown away. It's spectacular. It's going to be monumental for our community. I can't say anything more. I mean, just look at it. So I said, how much do you need? And they told me, and I said, well, we got to break it down into two parts because you probably want a little more than we have, that kind of thing. I filed the budget request, and then we had a bad year. And honestly, I remember calling Tom and said, I got the request in, but you know what? It doesn't look good because they didn't allocate that much money for environmental projects. when the appropriations chair, when I met with him and I showed him the pictures, he was blown away. Put the money in the budget for this project, and it stayed in the budget, notwithstanding only one other project got funded that year. So we are really, really lucky, and I think it's because, and the way I described it is, what a partnership. We have the Park Service, these tremendously dedicated men and women who love this place, and these volunteers. I mean, the time and the effort that all of you volunteers has put in is unbelievable. It doesn't happen often that way. And so it was, in a way, an easy sell. Getting the money was harder, but I just want to congratulate you all on the beginning of what I think is going to be a fantastic adventure for our community. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to help you in any way I can. And part two, well, you know, we can do that. So let me know when the bridge is done, and I'll be back. Thank you.
Eric Draper has spent 17 years as Executive Director of Florida Audubon, building Audubon's chapters into a formidable part of advocacy for Florida's wetlands and other areas. A legacy of his accomplishments include pardoning and restoration of the Everglades, expanding Florida's critical wetlands to now include 18, and working to protect the Florida Gulf Coast conservation. Eric can see the big picture. He's a very effective communicator with the public, the press, and the legislature. A real asset to Florida's gold medal parks. Our new Parks Director, Eric Draper.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, and it is so good to be here today to celebrate another step forward in allowing people to enjoy this special place and hopefully not risking their lives crossing the street to do it. And it's really great to be here. Tom, I noticed, Tom, after you asked me to speak, I saw the word keynote on there, and I thought, whoa. But then I remembered that this is actually the habitat around us actually is the keynote. So if you just would take a moment and look across the marsh and just notice what an incredible place this is. And this is just one little part of what is Florida's largest state park, really a remarkable state park, and with so many different types of habitats. And that is really the keynote here today, and you might even think it's the keystone. It is actually a keystone part of the Everglades ecosystem. I want to just take a moment, Tom, to acknowledge you because we got to know each other while I was working for Audubon, and you were a volunteer not just here as a leader, but also at Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. You were an amazing volunteer there. You and Judy just helped to really. Judy, where are you? There you are. Yes. Always partners that work together. You really helped to transform the place, and I'm so amazed, and I think that everybody ought to recognize Tom and Judy's very, very generous contribution to moving this forward. That is a large amount of money. And Patrick Higgins, what a terrific leader, what a terrific introduction. I feel like I spent the morning with you since as I was altering my notes, I was reading your material on your website, looking at your photographs. Thank you very much for what you do and for taking on the leadership. And I understand from what your announcement, you're handing that off to someone else at some point. But we have to understand the importance of leaders. I still love the fact this flag is flying in front of me. We walk in the footsteps of other leaders, and I just want to make sure that we remember that we would not have this place if it had not been for Mel Finn, someone I've learned about. What a remarkable, persistent, aggressive, tough leader. Aren't you glad Senator Pasadomo, you didn't have him nagging at you. Also Nathaniel Reed, who unfortunately passed away recently. I am attending his funeral tomorrow, but he was very much involved in saving this place. My predecessor is Director of the Florida Park Service, Nay Landrum, and of course the great, and I understand, I don't know if you're here, Franklin, are you here? Franklin Adams? I don't think anybody should forget the fact that Franklin was actually part of getting this place protected. It would have been another Cape Coral if it had not been for the intervention of people back in the 60s and the 70s. But if you actually look at the history of it, the effort went back all the way to the 1920s when the original logging was taking place, and the company was, and this was once part of a great, I mean, the world's greatest cypress forest. And fortunately, some of that cypress forest was saved at Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, but it doesn't take too much imagination to just think back of what it would be like if we've been able, if those original citizens had been able to get things saved. Even Henry Ford stepped forward and offered to buy it, I think for only $2 million. Can you imagine buying something like this for $2 million, 50,000 acres or so? But the fact is that all great things can be traced to the actions of those who, by imagination, Tom, determination, Senator Pasadomo, and they turn the direction of history. And that's what you've done here. Now, it's not the preservation of the place, but it's taking a place that was not as well used and as not well accessed as it should be, you know, as a state park, because we are really about getting people outdoors to enjoy our natural systems, and outdoors being able to learn and understand and care about it. And it's that caring about that leads to willingness of the public and ultimately our public officials to protect nature. But without people like the early days of Mel, Nat, Nay, and Franklin, it would be a different place. They laid the footsteps. And now the good thing is happening today is we're laying more footsteps. Now, I use this footsteps metaphor all the time when I talk, but it occurred to me today that really we are laying footsteps in a sense because we're building a place for people to walk and to enjoy other places. And I can only hope that with every step that each person takes, and they see the birds and they understand things and they meet our volunteers on the boardwalk and get a chance to be educated and read books and understand the place, that they will become inspired also to help to do everything that we need to do to continue to conserve the great resource of the state of Florida, because the job is not done with protecting land. So I want to make a particular point in acknowledgement again, because that addresses that issue of people taking action, of doing something and asking. I am so inspired by the story that I just heard of Commissioner Fela and Senator Pasadomo and Representative Rommel and others listening to constituents and stepping forward, best represented by you, by the fact that you recognize something. You saw a winner, but you also made sure that it wasn't just another good idea that died in the back rooms in Tallahassee. We've all seen that, you see that, and it's just really exciting. And one thing that people don't know about Senator Pasadomo is she's also associated with another one of our parks, Lover's Key, where yesterday we celebrated the groundbreaking of a new nature center. So can we give you a big hand of gratitude for Lover's Key also? Now, I want to just go ahead. How many people are a part of Friends of Fakahatchee here? Wow, that's really impressive. What a great Friends organization. We have about 90 Friends organizations around the state of Florida. I have to say, you're the best. Let's give them a big hand. The fact is that our our park service is partially self-sustaining. You know, we charge admission and fees for people to get in the parks. That covers about 65% of our budget. The legislature generously appropriates that money plus additional funds. And many things are also done because individual people step forward and want to make a contribution and want to help. And that is the Friends organizations. You guys do an amazing job, which is demonstrated just by us being here today, of going well beyond what we can do with public funds and adding to that. And what we know about Florida is we were one of the most wealthy places in the country, in the world. Florida is, particularly Southwest Florida. People want to be generous, people want to help, and the Friends organization give individual people the opportunity to open the checkbook, to think about what they can do with their money to really make a difference. That's through you and through projects like this. And I think through partnership was a word that was used before, through partnerships. You give people a chance to make a difference. Now, this park also benefits by a group of volunteers. Anybody here a volunteer, part of the park? All right, more volunteers. And what I want everyone to know is the Florida Park Service has 14,000 volunteers. Isn't that amazing? More than 1 million hours of volunteer service on an annual basis. So that is also part of what makes an amazing difference. Patrick, you already acknowledged our amazing staff here at the park. Stephen and Chuck and Belinda and BJ and others. But if you would just a minute, the Florida Park Service staff are some of the finest conservation professionals. I'm looking, by the way, at our FWC officers out here, so I'm going to add them into the mix. A group of the finest conservation professionals that you will find anywhere in the country. So can we just give one more acknowledgement to our hardworking staff? Now, Tom, I'm going to take the invitation to do a little keynoting here, if you don't mind. You have asked me to do that, and I think that it's important that I make 2 points here. And I'm going to try and do it as briefly as I can, particularly since I did not convert all of my notes to these little cards that I would need to use here, so they didn't blow away. But so Fakahatchee, what does that mean, right? Does anybody know Fakahatchee? The word hatchie is traditionally associated with water bodies, rivers, other things. It's pretty hard to looks like we've got an answer back there. I didn't quite get that, but. Art? Okay. Heart. Oh, that's great. That's good. That's exactly what I was going to say. I didn't know that. That is amazing. I spent time researching this and couldn't find it. So heart of water. Okay, that's. I'm going to just think that because I was going to say love of water. Thank you. So you've reinforced the point that I want to make. And part of what we're doing here today, and part of this entire project, is reconnecting water throughout the entire Everglades ecosystem. The part of the interesting thing that happened in this part of the world is that human ingenuity, we dug huge canals, both here and to the north and to the west of here, in an attempt to drain vast amounts of land to either turn them into productive agricultural land, or ultimately turn them into residential housing developments. And Everglades restoration, which Tom mentioned I've been long associated with, is very much about reversing many of those things and turning them back. And so we are seeing the benefit of that right now through the Picayune Strand Everglades Restoration Project, which has slowed a little bit. I'm making that point deliberately, as attention has been focused on the Lake Okeechobee and the Caloosahatchee River, but we have to remember that Southwest Florida's water supply, the health of the 10,000 islands, the health of the Gulf in this area is all dependent on completing that Picayune restoration projects. By the way, I'm completely off my state park DEP talking points on this one. But the benefit of that, and the last time I was down here for a groundbreaking was actually, it was a ribbon cutting for the Merritt pump up at Picayune, and I was asking Mike Allen, who's here today, who's our great park biologist, going to take me out in the swamp today. I'm so excited about that. And I was asking, have we seen a benefit already of that restoration project that's taking place just west of here? And he says yes, that in fact the plugging of the canals in Picayune has in fact stabilized our water flow. And at one time the water that you see here was sheeting off to the west, and it is now staying in here and being part of a prairie. And that's such an important idea in Florida and in South Florida in the Everglades. Is yes, we have a lot of people here. Yes, there has been a lot of damage done. But if you think about things from the heart is always going to, I love Fakahatchee heart of water. So that you always remember that we can in fact go back and undo or fix some of the effects ultimately. And we also have to remember that Picayune would not have gotten done if it had not been for the hard work of people who saw that as an important restoration project and just dug their heels in. They walked in the steps of other people. They got things done. They got all that land bought back, 18,000 acres, 18,000 individual lots, put it back together. That is a testament to conservation. By the way, I see one of the heroes who was involved in doing that work, my former colleague, from Audubon, Brad Cornell, if you would just raise your hand. What an unsung hero of conservation. It's so good to see you here, Brad. I heard people talking about you just this morning about what a consensus builder you are and what a practical-minded person you are in advancing things. And I think that that's what we need in conservation, is those practical people. The final thing, yeah, we're gonna credit those spoonbills to the fact that we just acknowledged an Audubon guy, right? Thank you for pointing that out. And we know that when we see spoonbills, it's a sign of a healthy ecosystem. So thank you very much. Wow, you made my day by pointing that out. Thanks. Look, and it helps to make the last point, and I'll wrap up what was supposed to be a keynote. I'm sorry to take so much time, except that these are, things I thought about, and I want to share with you, not just the possibilities of restoration that this place represents, but it is not by itself restoring Everglades habitats and restoring our great waterways in South Florida. By itself, that is not enough. We are the human species. We are this big group, growing group of communicative people who socialize and share and love, to use that word again. And what we're doing today is we're going to make sure that people can get out into this park in a better way and truly enjoy it and learn and understand about the system. And it was mentioned that we are getting back in the Park Service to our mission. Our mission, of course, is to provide recreational access, outdoor recreational access, but also to protect, and more importantly, this word interpret, which I really love, interpret the natural world for our park visitors. And if we just protect, if we just provide a place for people to run and play and walk, we're not really doing our complete job. Our complete job has to be to tell the story of a place. In the same way those spoonbills represent the health of this part of the environment, because they have to have a place to nest and breed and forage for food, and that's hard going for a spoonbill or a wood stork. We want to take the story of this place and help to educate all of the visitors, the many, many visitors to Southwest Florida who, tired of doing other things, want to have a nice place to go. And of course our residents and the kids in our schools, to be able to educate people, to interpret people, to tell the great story about the preservation of this place, what Mel did years and years ago, what people tried to do before that, but also to help them to understand how public lands like this and the way that we manage them help to protect their water supply and help to keep the entire South Florida ecosystem functioning together. So there we go. So with that, I know I get distracted by birds. I'm truly a bird watcher. But that's it. That is the keynote, by the way. Just you know what? Stop listening to me. Get your binoculars. Go out there and watch birds and butterflies. You'll learn way more than listening to someone talk I do appreciate this. I just want to go back to the same thing, and I'm just going to ask everybody to do one thing real quick, which is just put your feet on the ground, if you will. Just put your feet down there, if you will, and take your toes and just hold on to this land. Just grip the ground for a minute, okay? Just think that, and just imagine what has been done to protect this place, what you have all done, what will be done, and that feeling of holding on to a place, because you know we can protect it one time, but we have to protect it again. You only lose it one time, but you have to protect it and take care of it over and over again. And I like to call that toe grip conservation. We got to like just put our toes on the ground on that boardwalk and make sure that we take care of this place for the other. I am so honored, Tom, that you chose me to be able to give a little long-winded speech here. You probably knew that I would, but I celebrate you for being here today. We're going to have this incredible groundbreaking, and thanks to you, Senator Pasadomo, and you, Commissioner Fela, we have done something remarkable here. Thank you very much.
There was one thing when Eric was mentioning about Mel Finn and Franklin Adams. And some time back, someone said, "Have you ever heard of Jane Parks?" No? Well, Jane Parks was Mel Finn's partner from the Naples Women's Club, who wrote letters to any three people standing on a corner, or any senator, anyone. And Jane is with us today. There's Jane. So it would be remiss if we didn't recognize that one of the real founders of all this is protection. So are we ready to have shovels up? And if you all, the folks that are going to do the honors here, we have their name on each spade. And Eric, we have the special chrome-plated one for you, please.
Ready? Try and reach the seats.
1, 2, 3.
How's that, Jay?
Correct as in.
Was it okay?